6 for Lonnie. Did you hit record?
Yes, it's saying
Yep.
you're recording.
Okay.
So it just popped on, so.
All right. So, oh, here he is. Lonnie, what I was just about to mention was that we're gonna skip a couple of things on the agenda tonight, which are appointments. We're gonna do those when we do the rest of the appointments later this month. We can talk about year-end transfers, and we're not going to do executive session. So let's start with select board reorganization. I know we've been kind of off track in terms of our typical cycle. So I'm happy to remain chair for my last year of my term, but I guess I will open the floor for discussion or motions.
So I gave the question, and maybe I should know this, was, Lonnie, were you the chair last term?
No. It got off track. Generally, the person that's going, it's their last term, becomes the chairman. For whatever reason, it got off track. And I believe mainly that at one point, and there was an issue, and there was a potential issue. So Mark took it, and I just don't want to get into that. So because it was a personal issue. So I would say that I would nominate Mark again for this term, because it essentially would be his last year.
Well, I would second that nomination, that motion.
Okay, great. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Real aye. Thank you.
Wait, you can't vote on yourself. So
Congratulations.
You just can't second your nomination, but you
Oh,
can.
okay.
So,
Hold on, just trying to get settled.
so next.
I like the race car in the background, Lonnie. That's
Right.
That's
The
nice.
wagon.
Citizen statements and petitions. I don't believe, unless there's someone in the audience here.
No, I mean, no.
Yep. Go ahead. No.
I guess I'll throw it under correspondence to the board, but there's, sorry.
Go ahead.
So there's, we have this ongoing issue, and now we have another email that's been coming through regarding Inman Hill, but the ongoing issue at 30 Maury Street, which is just, that was my old address. It's 31, I believe. It continues. I'm up in that area because my daughter is friends with somebody else's kid up there, and it just gets worse and worse. I know that our zoning enforcement is working on it. They've gone to court. There's another case coming up where conservation has gotten involved. I don't know where any of it is, and I just think that we should probably, because they're not stopping. If anything, it's gotten worse. They're bringing in logging. He has materials that are trucked in and out daily from different companies. It's definitely not just, storing your landscaping company trailers at your house. So I think that in material. Oh, sorry.
From council in regards to litigation.
Yeah. There's also materials being brought in and out, which then I know another option we have is, the earth materials that are being brought in and brought out. There's that.
Topsoil bylaw?
It's called the loom bylaw, I think,
Okay.
but it does encompass more materials than that. And again, I hate to be anybody that gets involved in what people are doing on their own property, but this is over the top. So I don't want to lose sight of it. And then also we're seeing I don't even know that there's any issues on Inman Hill that can be determined by the zoning enforcement. I guess there's some encroachment that a picture might have showed that. But again, I would leave that up to zoning to bring that forward to us. However, this one had some legs, was delayed because of COVID and the courts being closed. But now it's gone. Now it's just it's worse. So
Yeah. I
something.
know the Inman Hill issue, I think, is being addressed. I mean, we paid to have those lot lines, done very recently, and there were stakes put in, and the abutter moved the stakes again, and now we're looking at permanent posts. So that I think is under control, but it could become a bigger issue if it continues. So, but the other issue there that you're mentioning on Maury Street, we probably will want to get an update from zoning and legal on that. And maybe
And-
Right, I thought that they had gone to court and they got a cease and desist.
Okay, all right. What's next? Like, what's the next step? Because they did not stop.
Okay, so there's probably, I mean, without knowing the details of it exactly, I mean, there should be a fine attached to each day that they are not in compliance with it. And
Okay.
then that needs to be recognized by building and zoning.
So what
So-
what I think we should do is there's also conservation issues. Why don't we ask a representative from conservation, hopefully it's the conservation agent, a representative from zoning, whether it be John and Lorianne or both, and legal counsel, whatever has been involved to get an update. And by all means, I think we should have the resident come join on the meeting as well. Again, I don't want to blindside him by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that it's just nothing's getting rectified.
Well,
Yeah.
can I just ask if, and I don't know what the issue is beyond what you just talked
Mhm.
about. But if there's a court decision that gives an instruction, who would, and there are fines attached, are we the ones that would assess the fine and enforce it, or is it conservation, or?
And again, I think that, well, conservation, I don't think is the term. They've just been up there, told them that they wanted certain things. I don't know that they've received it yet. Again, that's the question. So I think that with getting everybody involved, and we can have instead of it's a phone call here or an email there, let's get it all together so we know what our next steps are. So again, so that the resident knows what the next steps are too. So, I mean, if this stops, it's a different story, so.
Yep.
But it's bad.
Okay, so we just need to get an update from the team that's been involved. Sounds good. We can do that at our next meeting.
Okay.
Next we have consider common vic license for Herbs Make Sense. I will accept a motion on that.
I make a motion to approve a common victual license for Herbs Make Sense at 4 Maple Street, pending return of the positive rooting stubs.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Is there any discussion? I think we have the applicant here. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that? I mean, we're probably ready to approve it, but happy to hear from you.
Hello, everyone.
Well, thank you, and we're excited to be in Mendon. We are coming from Whitenville, but I originally started my business in Mendon 20 years ago, so it's kind of full circle. But I didn't quite catch what, depending on, what did you need from us?
Positive routing slip. So that means there's a slip that will go to a few of the departments in our town government that will just make sure there's no outstanding taxes, et cetera. So that's all it is.
Yes,
Okay, great,
beautiful.
thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you and welcome to Mendon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Tenio, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Real. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. So we can depart, or
You're welcome to stay or you can depart. It's up to you.
We have enough to do.
yeah, we're still setting up and get things done. So thank you very much, everyone. It was a pleasure meeting you indirectly.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Your business.
Sorry, say again.
I said, good luck with your business.
Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Awesome.
All right, have a good evening.
You as well. Okay, we have discussed proposed marijuana facility, JDM sales. We have the applicant's attorney, Mr. Ryan. Attorney Ryan, are you on?
Yes, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
Great. I'm attorney Chris Ryan from Ryan Law Office in Blackstone, and I represent JDM Sales. Thank you for having me. My client had a general question, and the general question is, if you look at the zoning bylaws, section 6.03B1, I think you're very well aware that it limits the amount of adult use marijuana facilities to no more than 3. So my client had purchased the property at 103 Oxford Road. He signed a host community agreement with the select board. He has obtained a special permit from the planning board. He also has secured a provisional license with the Cannabis Control Commission. He's gone further than that, and he's done all the engineering for the site at 103 Oxford Road. At the moment, what he's doing is helping the tenants who live there now. There's an old raised ranch type of house there, and he's helping them to find another place to move to, which, as you know, in this real estate market is kind of difficult, that kind of thing. So the question he really has is that it's a limit to 3, but what I don't see in the bylaw is what the measure is of that, I guess. And what I mean by that is he's got his provisional license, but obviously he can't get a final license and the ability to open a store until everything's built and approved and all that. That's going to take probably 9 months, depending upon, again, how fast do these tenants find a place. It could take as much as a year from now. So what he doesn't want to do is invest about $2 million into this project and then be number 4. You know, when you have a limit of 3, where someone else is able to find some lease space, you know, or something like that, where they don't have to be helping a tenant move and build a whole new building and everything else. So that's really the question becomes, what's the measure, or has the board thought of what the measure would be, since the bylaw really isn't clear on what the measure should be? So Go ahead.
Sorry, if I may, Mark, unless you want to take it.
No, go ahead.
So this had come up originally when we first started talking about this, and actually, JDM was, the concern was JDM was going to be ahead of everybody else because they were so far ahead of the game already, and the concern, and it's a first come first serve is how we have it. But we also had mentioned in that meeting, and I have to look back to confirm, is that, well, if we had that much interest that we were going to use up 3, that we would definitely entertain adding additionals if we needed them. And although that's going to, if it's in the zoning bylaw, we'll have to, go to town meeting to get that adjusted. Or is it, we can ask legal counsel, is it wide open enough that we can just add additional based upon, the fact that we have the load for it. But the way it sits right now, it would be first come, first serve. That's how I understand it.
Okay. That's really the question, because, again, I guess that's a decision for my client to make. In other words, it's going to take a long time. I guess the next question would be, how many adult use dispensaries do we have, as I would suggest, Hope's community agreement's already signed in Mendon at this time.
I think, Kim, do you know how many we have?
3.
Is it 3 right now?
Right. So, I mean, we only have 3 that have been considered, and you are much further along in the process than either of the other 2 by far. That's really all that we can say. I mean, obviously, we talked about this when we were about it before. Who's going to invest this much up front, right? We had this conversation, and really, because it doesn't ultimately come down to us to decide who gets through the queue first, basically at the state level. We said, based upon the amount of support that was shown at town meeting for basically cannabis everywhere, that we'd be happy to go back at town meeting and add additional licenses. And so I think in any scenario, even if you were 4, you'd be getting a license. You'd at least be getting, I mean, no guarantee, of course, but we'd be going back to town meeting to getting more licenses. That would be our, it was new to the town, and of course, we just opened the door, right? And so I think people will become more, now that they see that it's happening in other communities and they understand the benefits and the revenue, I think, I feel like the community will support it at town meeting.
Okay, if I may, I do want the board to know, I think I sent Kim an article, but for example, the same owner built one in Blackstone, and his first host community payment to the town was roughly a month and a half after he opened, because we're doing it by quarters, which, that's typical, right? So the first quarter payment was he was open a month and a half, and Blackstone received just under $37,000 for a month and a half of being open. So the revenue stream, and I can only say this at this point, the revenue that's come in that particular store has increased. It's almost doubled since then. So
Yeah.
It's amazing. So obviously, from a fiscal standpoint, it's great for a town to have, especially someone who's experienced. They know what they're doing. They've got this down really well. So that would help the town too, as
Right.
compared to, there are some stores throughout Massachusetts that aren't doing so well, but maybe they're not run the same way. That kind
Right.
of thing.
So is that 3% of their revenue in a month and a half? Was 37,000?
I think this one was a different percentage than 3, because there was I'll call it a special quote tax, or whatever you'd like to call it, for that particular area, because that was that area had some issues regarding policing and things like that. So there was a little different over there. Okay.
Got it. Yeah, because
So-
each community has the ability to really, if there's a good reason behind, making an argument for needing additional funds for policing in a certain
Right.
place, they can build that into the agreement.
Right. In that particular, there are actually some too. I know there's one in Uxbridge that paying 1.5%. So
Yeah.
it's all around the board.
We
You-
talked
you-
about this last
you
time,
mean the-
Lonnie, remember? It's
Yeah, you mean
basically,
the extortion tax, you mean?
yes, we're talking about it.
Yeah. Just wanted to
How
make sure we're
long
talking
and
about
is
the
it
same
legal? Will it actually last, right? That's why we basically made one carbon copy agreement that we're not negotiating individual deals with each person that comes in, because it's just not fair. So we have one that we think is fair, and it's the same one we're giving to everyone. And hopefully you guys jump through all the hoops that you have to, and you open as soon as possible. That's our hope. So
Right.
in
And most
whichever
times-
way we can help that we're actually legally allowed to, we'll do it. So
I like that. Thank you. That was really it. We're looking for, my client's looking for as much of a comfort level, and you can imagine, you're going to invest $2 million into something. You surely don't want to be right next to the finish line or at the finish line, and someone gets over that finish line, right before you. You'd be
oh, yeah,
going.
no. I drive by all those shops going up in Uxbridge all the time on my commute back and forth, and I just think so many on one stretch. How is it going to be, for them? And so I get it, I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay,
That was-
thank you.
My
so
client will be watching this meeting, and I think that'll determine what we do.
Okay,
Great,
see you soon.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next we have consider signing special election warrant. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Hang on. So did we get clarification yet on what law this is? Regarding the law of the fact that we're going back for this ballot?
Yeah, she said, I think this is the law. That was it so far.
Okay.
Remember, she's on vacation. So,
What was after, was it 70 or 71?
hold on, I gotta go through my email. Right here. 71, section 16B.
All right, can you,
Yeah, I'll Google it. Everyone Google it at the same time. Right. Let's see. Okay, yep.
oh yeah, I remember all this.
So without going through this entire thing, unless you want to read it into the record in case anybody's watching, or we should, or
Well,
they
no,
watch
I mean,
it.
I don't, so again, for us to read this law and make a determination, I mean, this is why we pay counsel to tell us this was what this law says. And, you know, all right, she's on vacation, I get it. Let's, by next meeting, if we could please get an
Yes.
exact answer on this. And I don't, and please, I don't want, well, I think it could be this, or I think it could be that. I want a determination of what this law says so that we're doing the right thing, because I don't recall ever looking
Right.
when we've done
So
it.
let's Cindy come back from her vacation. We have until the 14th. So why don't we pass it, pending town council approval, right?
No, and again, I think we just need to, we can just pass it. I'm not worried about that. I just, if we find out we're doing it wrong, well, then we have to,
We'll
figure it
call an
out.
emergency meeting and
Well,
we'll take care of it,
Yeah,
right?
I don't, if I'm not wrong, I don't think the issue is this vote now, because we've already gone to, move to have another override vote. My question is, what happens if it fails again?
Well-
And my understanding is if it fails again, it's the school committee's choice to either accept, what's been funded inside the budget, or they can recertify it the same number again or a different number, and then call for the joint town meeting, and they have to find a location and they have to pick a moderator, and then they invite people from both towns and they have to take a vote, and that vote's binding on how much each town has to pay. That's my understanding of reading it and talking to some people about it.
and
But-
again, that's
but
the thing
again,
we've
that
all been
doesn't-
through.
Right, that's your point, Lonnie, but I'm not a lawyer, so.
I think that we can ask Cindy to review this and give us a summary of it. I think that's important.
Right.
But
I
also
mean, we
think
are
that I also,
following the
hold on.
chart from last time.
Yeah, but also you can read this section and it's pretty, there is some legalese, but it does lay it out. It's a long section and it does lay it out. So I think we've been operating on a past, not assumption, but understanding of this chapter and section. I think it's a good idea to review it so that we're well aware of the process.
Right.
To make sure that we're still on track, because I think
Right.
over time things can be changed or forgotten, and we need to make sure that we're on the right track.
That's a good,
I see something already that's a problem. It says that the school committee will, adopted by the regional school committee, from the date amended, they're gonna give something to the chairman of the board of selectmen. So we're already out of that loop. I mean, thank God.
that's terrible.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is certainly wise, considering this ballot vote passing or failing, that we absolutely know, rather than just the threat of joint town meeting and what that will do.
Yeah,
right,
what
the
steps
what
are,
our rights are, right?
I mean, it's like I said, it's been a long time of just continuing to go along with what
It's been
someone.
6
told
years
us.
since we've really taken a look at it, so we should.
And it's good to know this too, because there was a few folks that I, had emailed in and I talked to a couple of them and I couldn't give them an answer. So now I can at least say, here, read this, and we're working on getting the abridged version of it for everybody.
Okay, well, I'll work with Cindy when she gets back and we'll get on it Monday,
Great.
assuming she's back on Monday. Just assume.
Okay. So we've made the motion. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Tenio, aye.
Morale, aye.
Real eye. Okay, thank you. We have discussed town newsletter. Kim, have you been thinking more about this? I know we've had some discussions about
Yeah,
it.
so you and I had talked a little bit. I was just thinking about the timeline. I was thinking of a quarterly newsletter, trying to determine which times of the year made the most sense with departments. I want to reach out to some of the boards and commissions. I want to basically put together what I think is a good timeline and bring that back. And then I said to you, it should be required for boards of the town, particularly ones that have admins, to provide information that we're looking for. You know, I'm thinking of bulleted things, not paragraphs. So yeah, I have been thinking a lot more about it. I think we'll probably see something come together. Let's see this thing pass at the end of June and we can get it together for July. And then maybe get out for, let's say, August, beginning of September. We'll start there.
That's great.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll keep this on the agenda and continue to discuss it. Any members have anything to add there?
I don't, nothing new.
Nope.
Great. Consider end of year transfers.
Yes,
You want to
You're
talk?
in. you're right. Do you want me to go through them? Where is it? So this is the first pass through. I sent them to you. Do you have them?
I do.
I do too.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just gonna open it up. Because of the strange year that we've had, we have an excess available to transfer from. So this is, even though this is the first pass, you can see that we're only using 4 different funding sources to begin with. FinCom reserve, which we didn't touch, reserve for negotiations, which we haven't touched, selectmen hearings and dues. Obviously, we didn't go to any of our meetings this year, and then health insurance to cover these transfers. Treasurer collector, we know about, we had a payout for one, and then we had the hiring of a new, and we had an interim. ZBA had more hearings this year. That's pretty straightforward. Their budget is very small. Telephone, not sure exactly on this one. I tried to go in KVS, but all I saw were a
Can I
couple of large.
Can I just stop it for a minute, just for the,
Yeah.
for the numbers for treasurer collector? I mean, I
Yeah.
realize that we switched and we had interim.
Yeah.
Did we pay out more than what their normal weekly salary would be for the previous one? And then, I mean, in other words, was there a doubling up?
Yes, so at the there was a benefit time and things of that nature that had to be paid out. But this is actually an estimate to the end of the fiscal year. The deficit right now is only like 33. So I did some quick math and I think we'll be at 55. But even within that budget, like I said, there's plenty of funds available. There's some excess still left over in the main treasurer collector line. We have to, from the 3 consolidations, dispatch was a big piece of funding this, and you can see I haven't even used the dispatch funds yet on here for transfers. So when we did the upgrade to the new position, some of that was going to be funded from dispatch, but I haven't even had to go there yet, which is incredible. And because also on this sheet is snow and ice, which is also excellent news. I mean, that we can cover that up front.
Right.
So that's great. So there's nothing unusual that's on here. These are all the usual ones that we see. Nothing.
I don't see
mean-
snow and ice on the sheet.
Yeah, it's right here. There's 2. See?
Yeah, I see it.
Snow and ice and then equipment.
Oh, okay, yep. But this is the amount, this is where it's going to, so it's coming from these 4 on the left.
Yes, and going
Yeah.
to these.
Okay.
Yes.
So snow and ice is the deficit's only 27,370.
Yeah, right. It's like
Right.
$30,000.
Right,
It's great.
that's
That's good.
fantastic, yep.
So that's great. I would anticipate, like I said, one more, which is usually the catch-all end of the year, minor ones. Anything teeny tiny we leave, but most budgets at this point have a surplus because of the strange year we've had.
Yep.
So I would anticipate seeing a positive in that for free cash next year.
I do have one more question. I know when I talked with Tom Zadelis back when he was still working there, he was working on 2 things. He was working on a report with recommendations, and he was working on putting actually policies and procedures in place. And I know at one point we had talked about it, and the previous treasurer collector had actually provided me with some that was marked up. Did we ever get the report from him? And if not, can we get it from him?
So he wasn't actually tasked with doing a report for us. He was and did send a couple of emails with recommendations for the department.
Well, can we get a report from him?
I don't know. I mean, he's not under contract for us anymore, but
Can we ask him to give us a report?
I do have some email recommendations from him. Those procedures and those policies are actually from the town accountant. They were recommended.
I know where they came from. I know that history because I was pretty involved in that. But that was over a year and a half ago. What I'm asking is, can we get him to give us his professional opinion of what needs to be done? And also, can we get written policies and procedures from him? Because he is arguably an expert on it, and I think we should get that information. So can we ask him for it and see if there's a cost and what it would cost? Can we do that? Or are we not allowed to do that for some reason?
Well, I'm sure we could. I'm not sure why we would, I guess. I'm not understanding.
Because we
Because-
don't have anybody who works for the town who is an experienced treasurer collector. And we hired him and he worked there for a year. And I think we need some direction. I had a lot of conversations with him.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Mike. I think the other piece of this though is that our town accounting services have really drafted these policies that we just have yet to adopt. I mean, we have this draft and it's just a matter of doing it, right? And so.
Well, I don't, again, I don't know. I'd like him to weigh in just because he worked there for so long in there and he worked in the town. I think it would be a good idea to get his input because he was there day to day for several months and I just would like his input. I think it's a good idea.
Wow.
I do have some status emails. I can reach out to him. I can, but we were considering doing, a contract to help with the transition anyway, but we didn't do it. Because he went on to another client. He actually has 2 other clients, but I can reach out and see. And I can
That would
forward
be
what he sent me during the time.
That would be great. That would be great.
Sounds good. All right. What do they have next here? We're done. We are done.
So do we need to make a motion to?
Oh, yeah, on transfers. Yes.
Yeah, we're not done. I felt like there was something missing.
That's because I interrupted your train of thought.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for
I'm gonna mute you.
that. Good luck.
I move to approve FY21 end of year transfers as presented in the spreadsheet.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Tenio, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Real eye. Excellent. If there is nothing else, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
Tenio, aye.
Raleigh, aye.
Real eye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Take it
Bye-bye.
easy.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.